I hope you can hear me. Somebody give me the thumbs up if you, okay. I will try to share my screen now. And it's that one. I hope you can see my screen. And I need to stop my time. Oh, well, Luca will stop me. So Luca suggested that we make the first of these virtual events about an open discussion of controversial topics. So I will try to be as controversial as possible. The topic is namely which contrast is best for layers, which is a hard topic to talk about, and maybe not my favorite topic to talk about, but it's an important one. So when I started to do layer-dependent fMRI 5-6 years ago, there were all these different contrasts out there competing with each other. So I felt I was born into an epic battle of many forces at play. I understood many papers as saying that there would be this one true winner that I should use, different to another paper. And like in every battle, there was politics involved, kind of group pressure sometimes. There were casualties, like endlessly rejected papers or unnecessarily delayed PhD projects. And like in many battles, there were influential leaders who had masses of followers. And it was fun and thrilling sometimes, but this battle might have gone on for too long now. I counted more than 80 high-resolution method comparison studies, not even including Renzo here. So think of the amount of mental energy that already went into this battle. Estimating the amount of time an author usually needs to invest in a paper, I estimate about 2 million work hours here. Think about the amount of money spent here. I had an estimate in US dollars, and Camille suggested that I don't show the explicit number because it was just too unsettling high, and I didn't want to be misunderstood as suggesting that we are too wasteful. But it's certainly a lot of money spent, definitely more than the budget of all of the Lord of the Ring movies combined together. And the Lord of the Ring battles at least gave us a winner at the end, right? This battle here, we don't have a winner so far. And it even seems to get worse in the sense that when I started, it was already hard. There were n number of individual contrast and comparison studies out there. I didn't know which one to use. So it might have felt like obvious to just compare them all and solve this issue for the field once and for all. And now we have n+1 comparison studies, and I still don't know what to use. Just like the Lord of the Ring battle, our battle here is virtual, like a fantasy battle, with very limited implications on the decisions of real-life choices of the researchers. In fact, almost none of these studies convinced another researcher to change sides and use a different contrast instead. And with very few exceptions, most of these studies suggest that gradient echo bold might not be the best way to go for layers. But still, gradient echo bold is what most of the people use. I think that this battle was very useful. It triggered innovation and had its place and time, but this time might have passed. I don't think we need another 80 papers and comparison studies to finally figure out that we will not agree on a winner after all. We already know this. So I would like to suggest that we change the battle metaphor to a different one. For example, that one, namely suggesting that we are lucky enough to have access to an entire transport fleet of different vehicles where each has its right to exist in its specific domain. Like when you're on a lake, you use a ship. When you're on a highway, you use a car, and so on. And the method of choice then just depends on your experimental domain, where you are, if you're at a lake or a car. And very often more than one option can give you the right answer and bring you to your destination. And often a combination of method is the most efficient version. So I hope that this metaphor will help me to change my mindset and help me to resist the temptation of unnecessary additional method comparison studies, because we are constantly surrounded by these temptations. There are these beautiful test cases out there, like the beautiful MGHM or double M response for ring stimuli, the famous ocular dominance columns, or this M-like layer profiles for a double peak. And we could calculate point spread functions or other quality metrics to finally find the best contrast here, right? And in our current mindset, it feels weirdly natural that we can use these test cases to find a winner. But I think in our current mindset, we are kind of being misguided from having grown up during times of war. I think that the research question of the method comparison is an absurd question. It's an inappropriate question and not really scientific at all. It's like asking, which vehicle brings me across the lake? It doesn't make sense, right? Or did you ever ask yourself that question? You wouldn't have a competition between a bike and a ship, right? Because the actual research question that we should ask is, do I happen to be on a lake or do I happen to be on the highway? And that determines which method to use. So we should ask, am I in an experimental setup where I most benefit from method A, or am I in an experimental setup where I most benefit from method B? So ask not what a method can do for you, ask what you can do to the paradigm so you most benefit from the method. And maybe turn it around and have a battle about the best experimental paradigm if you want to have a battle. Specifically, this might mean that if you're interested in a very specific case of having orthogonal task conditions of task A and B in columnar imaging, the diving vein might easily cancel each other out if you do a subtraction of the different task responses. And you might find that you happen to be in an experimental domain where you most benefit from gradient echo bold. But this doesn't say anything about the usefulness of the method, right? And the result is not generalizable whatsoever. The method is still the method. And as soon as you change your experimental paradigm a tiny little bit, for example, have a slightly stronger task A, the vein does not cancel each out again, and you might be in a domain where you benefit from a different method. For your next study, you might be in the lucky situation that you can average for 2 hours one strong task condition just to get one quantitative mechanistic question right. For example, this double peak here. And then you might find that you are in an experimental domain where you benefit from another method, maybe super thick slice VASO or GRACE or whatever, which doesn't say anything if this method is better or worse. It just means that you happen to be in a different experimental domain. In order to move towards a post-battle age of layer-dependent fMRI history, I will try to follow these guidelines. As an author, I will not waste time on additional unnecessary method comparison studies to find the winner method, because I know it doesn't exist. I know that my results will not generalize, and history taught us that other researchers use whatever they like anyway, so it doesn't even help my age factor. As a reviewer, I will not be a method phosphat. I will not make the authors acquire new data with yet another contrast just so the manuscript is quote unquote less method biased. As a grant reviewer, I will not reject grants because the method wouldn't be my first choice. The researcher can still achieve its destination and its question. In fact, I think the method battle here did hold us back for too long already. And there are bigger enemies out there. For example, we are like in competition for the same funding sources like people who do neuromarketing and those kind of things, right? Let's not allow them to get all our funds just because we are stuck at an unnecessary battle and give each other bad grades because somebody didn't use the method that I want to be that I co-authored and want to be cited a lot. I'm very confident that we will happily move towards a post-battle age of layer-dependent fMRI history because other fMRI subdisciplines also achieve this transition too eventually. For example, there are competing task methods like block design versus event-related designs, which have their pros and cons, who can nowadays coexist peacefully together. And if I'm using a block design, no reviewer is accusing me of being method biased. I can choose whatever fits my paradigm. I can choose whatever works. Thank you for your attention.